Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on the Hortensia notebook. Now if you don't want to use Hortensia, you can use any paper you want, but you will want to download the free PDF of the materials and the pre-cutting scoring guide. It's going to give you everything you need, including the decorative paper pre-cuts. Alright, so in this tutorial I will be making this, and I've got some beautiful stickles on there to accent. I've got some lace, and this is super simple and beginner friendly. And this is one I just made right before I made that one, and this is with the same paper, and I kind of did the same thing. It kind of worked, and some stickles on there. So I'll show you this one. Real neat, real easy. So in here I just stuck some papers and some stuff, but there is a little pocket, and here's your notebook and your pen. And this is the one we made in the tutorial. Alright, so here's your pen. It slides easily in and out of our little holder here. Here's our pocket, and what's neat about this is these are refillable. And they just slide right on in. This is, again, super simple, and once you've made one of these, then the rest of yours are just going to come together quickly. So let's get started on the materials list. We don't need that much, and some of the things I show you are optional, and I do tell you. So materials list, here we come. So let's go over our materials list. Now some of this you don't even need, but we'll go over what we need here. So you're going to want a writing tablet, a little notepad. You'll want either a pen or pencil for inside your notebook. You're going to want some glue, and I'm going to use the Art Glitter Dries Clear glue. And also I'm going to be using some of the Beacon fabric tack just because I'm adding in lace. And you don't have to use lace or anything at all, but I'm going to just add a little something to it. And I think you'll just need about maybe 12 inches of lace. This one has some pearls on it. And this Beacon fabric tack, it's really good on the lace to adhere it down. It's quicker than the Art Glitter glue, but Art Glitter glue does work. You may want some stickles for accenting rather than adding flowers or anything else, and this is optional too. You'll want about 6 inches of a 1/8 inch ribbon. I'm going to be using 3/8 inch score tape, and that is optional. I do recommend it in the places that I use it. The paper I decided to use is I had bought an extra Stamperia Hortensia, and I love this paper. It is so colorful and the print is beautiful. So I'll be using that. And you'll only need for each notebook maybe 2 or 3 sheets. 2 for sure. The third one you'll be using a partial bit of it. You're going to want 3 sheets of 65-pound 8.5 by 11 paper, and I'm using white cardstock. Tyvek. You'll need a couple strips of tyvek, and that is optional. If you don't want to use it on this, you don't have to. Okay, so you will definitely want to download the free PDF, which will have your materials list as well as your pre-cuts. And in this, I will be giving you the pre-cuts for your decorative paper. So, and I chose these prints, and I'll show them a little closer when we get to putting it together in case you'd like to make the same one. And I've already made another notebook that I showed just a moment ago when I showed you what we'd be making today. So there's so many options with that paper. I just love it. Tools that you're going to need is a scoring board, paper cutter of course, your bone or scoring tool, some scissors, you might want your ruler handy, and you will definitely want a pencil with an eraser because you'll be labeling your pieces from the pre-cutting guide. We will be going over the pre-cuts, so let's begin. Let's put this together. It's really simple. Let's go over our chipboard pre-cuts. Now this is a great idea to use up some of your scrap chipboard that isn't quite 6 inches wide for your mini albums or other projects. I happened to have exactly two 5.5 by 8.5 inch pieces, and this we labeled the covers. You'll also need of your chipboard a 1 inch by 8.5 inch, and we labeled that our spine. Tyvek is optional. I am using it, and it's 1.25 inches wide by 8.5 long. And tyvek, what that is it's just a material that is very hard to tear. It's in the binding, so it all holds it together. But if you don't have it for this project, you don't really have to have it. I do just as a backup so my notebook will last longer in case it starts to tear and wear and whatever. It'll hold together. And I did not show you this notebook, but I made this years ago. I use it all the time, and I have replaced this over and over. And I actually use one in my craft room for when I'm designing my mini albums or other projects to write down my notes. So I use one in here. I have one in my office, home office area. I have one in the kitchen. So I always have something. It's kind of decorative and it looks good. And I also made them for gifts, and I believe I've sold some of those in the past. All right, let's go to our pre-cut white cardstock now. You're going to need two pieces that are 7 5/8 by 10.5, and we labeled that notebook wrap, and this is done on 65-pound cardstock. I will say, if you do it with 110 or a heavier weight, sometimes they're so stiff. Like this one's very stiff. I used a heavier weight, and it doesn't quite come all the way down, but you can always put a tie closure or something, or over time like this, it has relaxed. So, and that's why I like the 65-pound, is because I don't have to wait for a year or so for it to relax, and it works good. The next piece we had was a 6 3/8 by 7 7/8, and we called this a large pocket. And we're going to score this together. It does have scoring on it. And it doesn't matter if your scoring starts with your 0 here or over here. It's not going to matter. So what we did here, we laid this first at 6 3/8 across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch. We did 5 3/4 and 5 7/8. We turned this now so that we were 7 7/8 inch across, and we did a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch, and we called this our large pocket. One more piece needed to be scored, and this was our 4 by 6.5 inch. SM means small pocket. And we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 4 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 and 5/8. We turned it so we were 6.5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, 5/8. Then we came on over here and we scored at 5 7/8 and 6 inches. Let's go over our pre-cuts now for our decorative paper. And there's no scoring, so I'm going to get this out of our way. If you are using the Hortensia paper, this is what I'm doing if you'd like to follow along and get the same results. We cut one piece that was 8 1/8 inch by 12 inches. And we did not label this. This is just our inside cover. And I did give reference to that on the PDF, the pre-cutting. So 8 1/8 by 12 inches. Our next pieces where we did 2 pieces, and it would have looked like this on your decorative paper. It's beautiful. Each one of these are 5 1/2 by 8 3/8. We also cut a 1 inch by 8 3/8 inch, and it was our outside spine cover. We cut a 5 inch by 7 inch piece of our decorative paper. This was to cover our large pocket. And on the back it looks like that. We had a 5 by 3 1/4 or 3 1/4 by 5. And this was to cover our small pocket. We then had a 2 inch by 5 inch piece, and this is just for our notepad top cover. And what I mean by that, what's going to happen is this will place here, and we'll be wrapping around the back so it all looks nice together. Of course, when you do use up this whole thing, and if you use it like I do, you'll be replacing this in no time. You can always save extra or just put it in there. I mean, you know, but I think it looks good, especially if you're giving it as a gift. It just all matches in nicely. Okay, that's it. Let's get to putting this together now. The first 2 pieces that we're going to work with is our 7 5/8 by 10 1/2. Now, one thing I want you to do is turn this so it is 10 1/2 inches tall in front of you. We're going to grab our 3/8 inch score tape, and we are going to overlap these. So we'll take just on one side with our 3/8 inch score tape and line it down one side. And then we're going to burnish. Again, this is on the long side. One thing that I like to do is to use my paper cutter, the guide that I place it up against, to keep me straight. So I am going to remove that, set this down straight here. I'll push it up against the guide bar here so it's nice and flush. I'll take this one and overlap it. And I have that against the bar. So then they come out even and it's straight. What do I got there? There we go. And that's all. You don't have to. If you're good at just seaming things together straight, do that. Okay, let's grab our 1 by 8 1/2 inch chipboard spine. Now for me, I like to use score tape. If you would rather use glue, you can. I'm just going to lay a piece here down the side, and I'll lay a piece here, and that should be good enough. And we're definitely going to burnish that down to get all the air out from underneath. That is key to avoid liftage. When we place this down, we're going to place it right on the middle of that seam, and that will give us about 1 inch of white cardstock here and here. And that's what we're going for, about 1 inch. And I'm going to place that right in the middle. And if it isn't quite 1 inch, that's okay. Just do the best you can. And if you get it on crooked, that's okay too. Most likely you're not going to be able to tell. Our next is our chipboard cover. And what we're going to do is you can use glue or you can use score tape, and you're going to place that down, leaving yourself spacing. And for me, I've got approximately about 1/8 or 3/16 inch. And I am going to cover this, at least the edges, with score tape. Now I'm going to use score tape for this whole thing. If you would rather use glue, and then make sure you burnish that and spread the glue out pretty good. I'm just going to do that. I'll put one down the center and one on each side. And burnishing that down is my next step. All right, let's do the same to this one. Okay, I'm going to remove the score tape backing and we'll place this together. Okay, I've got the score tape backing off. Again, I'm going to leave about an 1/8 to 3/16 inch spacing. And I'll try to line up the bottom of this chipboard with this one. Usually when I'm making mini albums, I do like to draw around my pieces to make sure that they are exact, but for this I'm not going to. And then I'm just going to put some pressure down on that. So by the time you're done with that, you should have at least an inch of your white cardstock over there. Okay, I'm going to do the same over here. And if one side ends up being the white cardstock more than the other, that's okay. It gets covered. So here we go, about 3/16, and I'm going to eyeball this. I'm trying to keep this straight with the other chipboard. Oh, there's good. I think I'll go with that. I don't think I have a choice at this point. It's down. All right, so now we are just going to turn this over. We're going to burnish really good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to just start folding with our hands to start it. And then we can use our tool to just kind of go along there and brush it on over. If you are using this, don't use the sharp point, use the more rounded for this. And that way you don't damage your edges of your cardstock. Just kind of help it. And then we're going to do that down here too. Just kind of help it along. I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, so now I'm going to lay my score tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a piece of score tape right along on the white cardstock, right along the edge to the chipboard. Now, one thing you notice is I'm not going all the way over to the edge. It's because I don't need to. Eventually, we're going to be cutting at an angle there to wrap. My next step is I'm going to get the outside here, just along the edge. I'm a score tape girl, so I do use score tape. If you would rather use your glue, you can, but I like score tape. It's not very forgiving, and I really don't want anything forgiving right now, so I want it to stay, and I want it to grab quickly. Okay, let's burnish. Before we do any wrapping, of course, too, we are going to lay our tyvek if you're using tyvek. But let's get this taken care of. We're going to cut at an angle, and you will want to leave 1/8 inch space from the corner of your chipboard. Your tyvek. Again, I'm going to use my score tape. And all I'm going to do here is lay a piece along both edges and then one down the center. And this does get covered up. So I burnished that. Now I'm going to do the same with this piece. Now tyvek will want to wrinkle up on you, and that's okay. Just burnish down. It'll all go down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the score tape backing, and you see where our spacing is? This gets placed evenly over it, right there. Very simple. So here we go. So right over that. And if you do not get this on straight, it's okay, as long as it gets on. So now I'm going to burnish a little. If you have seams like this, it's not going to hurt anything. You can always dab a little bit of glue underneath there if you'd like. Let's get the other one on. Okay, again, I'm going to place this over there, and I'm just going to have these side by side. And it does not have to be even. And we'll burnish. Okay, let's wrap. We're going to start with the sides. Wrapping. Hello, score tape. Come on, little guy. There we go. And all we're going to do with this is fold it over. And then we can use our tool. We'll do the other side. And then the top we will be tucking in when it's time to do that. There we go. Fold that over. Very easy. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to release the score tape backing from the top and the bottom, and then I will show you how to wrap. And a lot of you already know how to wrap and tuck in your edges, but in case you are new, let's do it. Okay, so one thing that you can do is you can take your finger right here at the edge and just press in to bring that in. Another easy way is just take your tool and maneuver it around the edge, and that will tuck that in. And I'll do it down here. Just kind of follow it around, and that should tuck it. Now we just pull this over, and then we use our tool to burnish. Sorry, I'm all clumsy today. Okay, and I'm going to press down on those edges and burnish. We'll do that again. Just kind of bring in your tool. I like this one better to do this. Tuck it in and maneuver around. Fold up. And press down to get your edges a little better. So that is what you have. Let's grab our 8 1/8 by 12-inch piece of decorative paper. Now we're looking at the inside right now, and we're not going to pull our sides up just yet, but what's going to happen is, and I will be using score tape, I recommend it, especially around this area, because when we fold in our sides, sometimes you don't get enough glue and you can get bubbling up in the paper. Okay, but what's going to happen is we're going to place that down just like that, and this is our inside. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to use the score tape, and the first thing I'm going to do is go all the way around the edges like a picture frame. Okay, to determine where you need the most score tape, this is the underside that's going to go down. But if you were to place your piece right now, side to side, and center it, that should give you, what, about 1/4 inch on each side or so? Now you see where your middle of your spine is, and what I'm going to do right now is where those, I'm going to put black right where those spacings are, and that way you can see what I'm doing here. Now we know the spine is in between the black lines, okay, and we know that then the cover's over here, over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over a good inch from that, and I will place a line of score tape. Okay. I'll come over on this side and do the same thing. All right. So now what's going to happen is I am going to lay row by row of score tape all the way in between here. You don't have to do it over here and here. That would pretty much be a waste, but we will put some over there because especially if you plan on doing embellishments or whatever, and plus you want it to all stick down. Almost perfect. Okay, so for this area I'm just going to go one in between this and that, and then I'll put a little piece here. Doesn't have to be quite as tall, and I'll do over here too. Let's burnish. All right, I am going to remove the score tape backing and we will place this. Okay, so when I place this down, I'm going to be centered side to side and top and bottom as best I can anyway. So I'm going to kind of hold it up and kind of look over to see where I need to be. There, pretty straight. Now another trick is, and you'll definitely need to burnish, especially in this area, but another trick is because score tape is unforgiving, you could put a little bit of glue underneath, so if you get it down you can get it back up because it's wet, and it also will help you maneuver. And sometimes you will hear crackling. I know I can hear it on mine. And that's just the air getting out from underneath. All right, now is the time we're going to put our hand in the middle and we are going to pull in. And notice you don't get any bubbling up when you do use the score tape. Okay, so there's one. Now I'm going to bring in the other. And you don't want it totally to where you can pull it all the way over. You will rip yourself out. But what I like to do is just gently kind of help that a little. Just gently, and it will relax. So this is our inside right now. Your 6-inch strip. Grab the pen or the pencil that you will be using for the inside. In my case, I have a mechanical pencil here, and this one actually has a little lip. All right, right in the center there, I have this on that middle spine. I'm going to grab some of the Beacon fabric tack. Now if you're not using this, a good thing to maybe use is maybe a little hot glue to help get it tacked down while your other glue sets. But I'm using something that's really good. And all I'm doing is I'm pressing down, and I don't need quite that much. Here is where my first spacing is, in between the spine and the back. I'm going to have at least 1.5 inches over, so I can clip off any excess now. And I am going to place a line here of my fabric glue, and I'm going to place that down. Just make sure your pencil or whatever is in the middle. Now I can see what I need there. And I'm going to put a little glue under this, just for the side, and I'm going to let that set. When you're all done, you can always add more glue, but just make sure that you can still get that in there. Dab a little for this part, and then there's still that excess. Okay, I'm going to let that dry while we tackle our pockets. So I'll put this off to the side. I love that paper, it's just beautiful. Let's grab our 6 3/8 by 7 7/8 large pocket. Now our scored lines go here and down over here. There's 2 on each side. And we have a set of 2 lines at the bottom here, and there is none up here. So in the corner you will see it kind of makes a square. So we're going to go to the inside score line all the way to the top one, and then we will clip out that, whoops, little square. So we'll come over here to the inside, we'll clip up to the top and over. So you will look like that. We're going to turn this over and we're going to fold on those score lines. Okay, so what you're going to want to first do for this is we have those 2 sets. Now I want you to push it in until it feels like it's flat, like this on the side. And over here too, so I'll push in that side. And we are like this, both sides there as best you can. And now what we're going to do with the bottom is the same thing, kind of push up to where it's flat. If it's easier, you can just kind of go like this and you know it's flat. We're going to grab a little bit of glue and we're going to put it right down here in the corner. Whoops, that's too much. Right down in there. Okay, if it's easier, once again, you can prop it like this, up and down, and then pull these up to match your sides. It's up to you. I don't usually do that. It should be okay by the time we're done anyway. So just carefully burnish. And now we have enough spacing to get our notebook back into this. Let's place this, and I'm going to use score tape because it's easier. And I'm just going to lay a piece right here. Whoops. And I'll lay a piece over here, right on down. And across the bottom little flap. And this is now ready to place. I am going to burnish this just a little bit, and then I'll get it burnished down really good once it's on my page. So just kind of do that. So before we do anything, you will notice that here is, and this is already done, that here is where our lace is, and it's onto the cover. Here's the thing, if you are right-handed, you will want this one over here. If you are left-handed, and this is for you, or you're making it for a left-handed person, you may want to put it over here. And the reason why I say that, number one, what's going to happen after we get this down in our paper, this is removable. So if you are left-handed, you decide what's more comfortable here. Is it more comfortable for you to write on a tablet with your tablet being on this side? Or is it more comfortable for you to have your tablet on the left side? So I'm right-handed. Oop, hello, come on out. And I'm going to want it on the right-hand side because it's easier for me to write. Okay, here we go. So be mindful of where your crease is when you do this. The easiest way that I would tell you to place this down is if you go along the side, if you got it even, you'll be placing it right on over, and that will give you at least 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch between that little groove where your hinge is there. So, and I'm going to bring it all the way down to the bottom, and again I'm going to shift it over to where I have about 1/2 inch. Alright, so burnishing, you can go like this. Your tablet will pop this back up, or get something long in there. But I think mine's pretty well down in there. So now before I put the paper on, you can slide this, the back part, right on in there, and it's going to fit nicely. See that? and replaceable. So it works. The next piece that we want, everybody, is our 5 by 7 inch piece of decorative paper. You can go this side if you're doing the same as me, or this side. And I am going to go with this side. And I think I'll just use glue. As long as I get those edges down in the corner so there's no lifting, I think I'll be okay. I hate lifting edges. I do. And that's probably why I use score tape on a lot of in my mini albums, on base pages, and for my outside. So I'm just going to place that and kind of center it in the sides there. Leave myself a white little lip. Beautiful. Let's grab our tablet. And remember our 2 inch by 5 inch piece? This is where I'm using score tape. And I'm going to tell you why. Is because when I place this down, at least for me, if I use glue and when I'm wrapping this around, it may not get in certain places. So for me, the score tape is the safest, and I like that. So I'm just going to line around this like a picture frame, like I always say. Sorry if you guys get sick of me hearing it when I describe it like that, but I guess that's what makes me me. It's my choice of words. Here we go. And I'm clipping off any overhang. And now I'm just going to lay my score tape right next to each other, because when I go around the top, I want to make sure it sticks. And right here, I'm just going to overlap because it's a little wider, and that'll be okay. So now I'm just going to burnish this down. I'm going to remove my score tape backing, and I'm going to place it. Okay, so here I go. This is 5 inches wide, the same as my top of my little notepad, and I'll just lay that right on down on top. Okay, so now I'm just going to make sure that that's down, and now I'm going to wrap it. And that's why I mean it's harder to use glue, at least for me. And now all I have to do is wrap this. And I will burnish. So now your little notepad totally matches this. Slide that in there. Looks good. How about that? Okay, let's move on to the 4 by 6.5 inch small pocket. Again, down in the corner on the inside score line, we will clip up to the top and over to get that square out. Inside score line, up to the top and over. Okay, let's grab our piece here. Now you can be, when we're all said and done here, when these sides are tucked in the bottom with our spacing, I'm just going to do this for right now to show you what you can do like I've done in others. Now when you place this down and match it up with the side of your paper, that will give you enough room between where your hinge is. But you can have a regular pocket like this, or you can cut it at an angle. If you are cutting it at an angle, one thing you might want to do is cut first on your paper the angle you want, because it's easier to get an angle cut on this back one. So you can cut it at any angle you want. You can use scissors, you can do your paper cutter. I am going to slightly cut at an angle, and I'm going to show you. And you don't have to. If this seems like it takes too long, then just wait, and then your piece will fit nicely on there, just being straight across. So my blade is right here, and this is the top of my paper, and I am just going to cut slightly at an angle. So just like that. Okay, before I do anything right now, what I am going to do is I'm just going to lay this down and I'm going to glue this down to my piece. Now I'm not going to glue it over my score lines. I am going to try to center this in between those inner ones. Once you have that, now what you can do is cut at an angle, and I'm just going to use my scissors and leave myself a white little lip there. Let's assemble this now. Make sure you fold it on all your score lines, pull in your sides, and we're going to do like we did before. Make sure that you leave that little spacing there and over here. And you can do it like this if it's easier, and then pull in your sides to meet the side of your piece over here, where it should be, and over here. So if you're doing it like this, you can just kind of pinch it down, or just go with it. And that's what I'm doing, is just going with it. We are ready to go. This is what it should look like. I'm going to grab my score tape now. Brush that down. And we are ready to place this. If you would rather use your glue instead of score tape to glue it down, you can do that. Whatever it is you would like to do. All right, so this piece comes down to the corner over here. And we just line it up. There we go. And now we can burnish that down. I use my tool to make sure it's straight on the bottom. And this one's easier to get your tool into. It isn't so long, so you can get it in there. And you can also use it to help with sharpening up the sides and doing what you would like to do. So the inside here is done. I think that's glued down. That looks good, and it should fold over. Okay, last pieces. So here is my front, and I am going to glue that down right like that. And you can use your glue, or you can use your score tape. I'm a score tape girl, so I am using score tape. Sounds like the dogs hear something. So there is that, and I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to do the same thing. And when I place this, I'm going to center it side to side, top to bottom. Now I'm going to turn it over to the back. I'm going to remove the score tape backing, and I'm going to place this one. And I think I did miscut this a little shy from being 5.5 inches, because I believe this one is the 5.5 too, and it fits better. So if you will have less space than me. I don't know what it is with me and miscuts. This last week it's been like that. But at least you have the correct measurements there. And it doesn't bother me. I just have more of a border there. No big. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to remove my pen for now. And I'm going to get my little spine piece on there. And it fits right on that spine. If you'd like to use glue, do so. Oh, that's pretty too, just like that. Going to go from each side there. I'll dab a little glue down here, a little here, and I think I'm fine now. It's time to place it. So know where your spine is. If it's easier, you can just go right like this. Have your borders where they should be. Alright, so I cut my 2 pieces of my lace. One is going to go here. See how that just adds more to it? And one's going to go there. And I just cut it for the width of my paper. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to work on a little bit with my stickles. And I think I got that on straight. I did stickles. Now, I did this on my other one, and you don't have to go hog wild, and you definitely don't need a thick layer. But all I'm going to do is accent some of these flowers and the leaves. So just a little bit. So I am done with my stickles. I just love this paper. So I hope you like this tutorial, and remember, this doesn't have to take a whole lot of time if you're using the stickles. And as far as stickles, you can use crystal, you can use diamond, stardust, whatever one that you would like to use. You can even use colors. If you need to use colored ones, you can use colored ones. It kind of makes it really just beautiful. Alrighty, so that's it for this tutorial. I will see you real soon on my next tutorial. Happy crafting, everybody. See you next time.